welcome to Homa Studio's Python for Beginners series, and this is installing Python, idle, and VS Code. We'll work in PowerShell a little bit, and this is for the Windows version. So whether you work on Mac or whether you work on Windows, you may be dealing with Windows in educational settings, so I figured I'd go over this as well. Now I'm working in Windows 10 on Parallels on a MacBook Pro, so I just want to point that out. So it won't be completely Windows-like, and we'll be installing Python, but what we could do first, just like we did on the Mac side, is we could use PowerShell. Now you could search for PowerShell down here. I have the icon in my taskbar, so I'm going to open up PowerShell, and I'm going to do the same thing that I did on the Mac. I'm just going to type in Python and see what version is installed. And I'll just do Python -- version, and I get an error. Now, I don't know if the error is something that I typed or if there's no Python on there, so let me just type Python and just try that, and I'm still getting an error. And let me type Python 3 just in case, and I'm still not getting anything. So my indication is that Python's not on here, and it shouldn't be installed by default on Windows like it is on Mac. We're going to have to install it, so we're going to go to Chrome, and we're going to go to Downloads. And instead of downloading just the version they have here, because when I tried this before, it did the 32-bit version, and on here I want the 64-bit version. So what you could do is just go to Windows and check the other versions, and just to make sure you have the 64-bit version if you need that, just scroll down and look for the Windows executable installer. This is the one that says 64. So if you download this one, you should be fine for 64-bit. And again, if you're not sure if it's 64-bit or 32-bit, you could always go to this PC and look at your properties, and it'll tell you if it is or not. In case you're not sure, you could always go here and check out your properties, and you should get a window that'll tell you 64-bit operating system. So that's not that hard to do. So I'm going to download this one, the executable installer. So I'll just click on that. And it's an exe file. And I'm going to run it. And you'll have a wizard come up. And instead of just doing install now, even though you could, a couple things just to point out. You do want to say add Python 3.7 to path. This will help your path, especially when you're using IDE. So make sure you add Python to your path. And then I'd also recommend doing a custom installation. And you don't have to do anything here. You could just hit next. But I would say install for all users, because by default it's installing it in this app data of your user. But if you're in an educational setting or something like that, you might want it on the C drive. So if you install for all users, it'll be available for all of your users. Plus, it's a little easier to find if it's in your program files on your C drive. So I'm going to check install for all users. So again, just to review, I'll go back here. Make sure you check add Python 3.7 to path, custom installation. If everything's checked here, that's okay. And install for all users. It's going to go into program files, and I'm going to hit install. Okay, it says setup was successful. That took about a minute or so. It took longer than on the Mac. So I'm just going to hit close. And if you want to check it out and see where it is, I'm going to go to this PC, and I'm going to check my local disk. And under program files, that's where Python is. And just go down to the search bar and enter idle, and it'll find it for you. And there's idle. It's saying 3.73. But before we even do that, just to stick to the way I did it on the Mac side, I'll come back to here, and I restarted this, so I got rid of all those error messages. And I'm going to type in Python and just hit enter. And I'm still getting an error. So if this happens, what I'd recommend is probably restarting. And now it's picking it up. I restarted PowerShell, so now it's showing up. So, and I'm in that command prompt just like I was on the Mac side. Yeah, it does the same thing. You could use quit with parentheses, and that will take you out of there. So that'll take you out of the interpreter, out of the command prompt. So we look okay. We have 3.73 on here. We have it on idle. And remember, idle is the same way on a Mac. You have, this is your shell, and we're kind of in this interpreter kind of area here. And if you want to make a new file, you could go file, new file. And I'll just do the same thing I did on the Mac side. I just put a little print statement. And I'll do hello from idle. And I'll put Windows just so I know it's that one. Notice when I type this in, I'm putting quotes and I'm putting it in parentheses. And I'll just save this. So I'll do save as. And I'm going to go to, just so I get it in the right place on the Windows side, I'm going to go to this PC. And this is where I should be going into my local and my users. And now I'm in the right place. There's my documents, and you can see there's nothing in here. And I'll save that into a new folder. So I'll create a new folder. And I'll make an HS Python folder in here. And I'll save this in here. Just to review navigating in PowerShell with just some simple bash commands. If you do cd, that's change directory. So if you want to go into a different folder, you could use cd. Or if you're not sure what's in this folder right now, you could do ls. That'll list the items in there. So I'll do ls. And there's my directory. And here's all the items that are in there right now. So if I want to go into documents, I can do cd and then documents and spell it exactly the way it is. And now I'm into documents. Now it's not showing me what's in documents unless I do ls again. So I'll do ls to list the items in documents. And there it's showing me my HS Python folder down here. And to go inside there, and I always have an issue with scrolling in here, but to go inside this folder now, I'm going to do cd again, cd in a space, and HS Python. And if I hit enter, it'll take me in there. So now I'm inside that folder. And if I do ls again, now it's showing me what's inside there. And there's my hello win file. And if I want to run the file, I would just do Python space and hello win. And then I get output from that file. So you could run this all in PowerShell if you want. There may be times when you may need to do that. But for now, you just want to make sure that you could communicate through PowerShell. So that's all I'm going to do right now. I just wanted to point that out. And as I mentioned in the Mac video, the Learn Python the Hard Way website by Zed Shaw has a whole section on working in command prompt and command line. And he has a whole bunch of these different instructions and how to type in these little things like cd and make directories and all this from the command line. So if you're interested in learning more about PowerShell or Terminal, check that out. And now we're going to download VS Code. We're going to be using Visual Studio Code for our local coding. So I'll just search VS Code. And I'll download for Windows. And there it's downloading, 48 megabytes. And I'm going to run the executable file. And it brings up a wizard. And I shouldn't have to do much here other than accept the agreement. And I'll just put it in its default location. And I'll finish, and it'll launch Visual Studio Code. Now again, this isn't Visual Studio, this is Visual Studio Code, which is more of a code editor. It can be used for web development. It can also be used with Python and some other programming languages with some extensions installed. Let me maximize it. Let me close up the welcome screen. And one thing on the Mac side, it actually had the Python extension installed. Let me see what's installed here. It has, see, this one doesn't have it installed. I don't know if I had installed it already, but anyway, what you want to do is go to your extensions, this icon here, which I'm not sure exactly what that thing is, but that's your extensions. And they have popular ones here. And the only one you need to do right away is just this Python one from Microsoft, which is fine because Microsoft owns this software, so there's no problem using that. So just hit install for that extension, and it doesn't take long to do. And just be aware, if you're in an educational setting, even if you don't have access to install software, you can install extensions on regular lab machines in most situations. So that's installed. I'll go over Visual Studio Code on another video, but for now, that's all you really need. They have this open folder setting, which is nice because it'll default to whatever folder you want to work in. And that way, when you go into Terminal, just for example, if I go to Open Folder, go into Users, Home Studio, Documents, let me open this folder. I'm going to select this folder. This is the one I put that hello win thing in. Let me open that up. It defaults to this folder, this HS Python folder, and there's my hello win file. And the benefit of this is that when I go to Terminal and I create a new terminal, they have a built-in terminal, and it's kind of mimicking or cloning PowerShell, so it's doing the same thing. Now from this terminal, you could do the same thing. You could just type in Python, a space, and your file name, hellowin.py, and hit enter, and you'll get your output here. Another thing you can also do is open up the file and right-click and just say run Python file in terminal, and it should do the same thing. And there's your output right there from from terminal as well. So you have the option of working kind of with PowerShell within here. So VS Code is a nice application. It's great for web development, but it's also nice to be able to do Python here. This is a nice place to start. We'll also use some online IDEs as well. So that's all we really need to do with Visual Studio Code right now. We'll probably have another video on just using some of the features in here. And I think that's all we really have to do. We're all set up and ready to go, and we should be ready to start learning some Python.